Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that's close to all of our hearts, I think.
Relationships.
You got it. And we've got some really fascinating sources lined up.
Oh, do tell.
We'll be looking at this really interesting Arabic text that delves into like the foundations of strong relationships.
Okay, interesting.
And to kind of bridge the gap to the 21st century. We've got insights from a modern day relationship expert named Abu Omar.
Oh, cool. Where's he from?
He was actually featured in a recent podcast I came across.
Interesting.
And I thought, what better way to kind of get a really well-rounded perspective
Yeah.
than by weaving together these kind of different viewpoints.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And as I was going through both of these sources, I noticed this one really striking similarity.
What's that?
Both of them emphasize this idea that a strong relationship with God is really the bedrock of any healthy relationship.
It's interesting how that concept transcends time and culture, isn't it?
Right. It's like
It makes you think, like, if our connection with Allah is the foundation, then the quality of all our other relationships kind of reflects the strength of that foundation.
wow, yeah.
And Abu Umar, he actually takes it a step further and suggests that when we're having troubles in our relationships, it might be a sign to look inwards and examine our own connection with the divine.
I like that a lot. So before we even think about improving our relationships with other people, maybe the first step is strengthening that connection with Allah.
That's like building a house,
Yeah.
You need a solid foundation before you can start adding walls and a roof.
Love that analogy.
And speaking of building, both of our sources emphasize the importance of self-awareness and self-improvement
Ooh, that's a good one.
as kind of the building blocks of any healthy relationship.
So it's not just about finding the right person.
Right.
It's about being the right person.
Exactly. The Arabic text really emphasizes the importance of self-esteem and self-confidence.
Okay.
It's about valuing yourself and believing in your worth.
That makes me think of what Abu Omar said about slowing down in our crazy world and like truly understanding our position in life.
Yeah, I think a lot of us get caught up in comparing ourselves to others,
Oh, yeah.
chasing external validation, trying to fit in.
All the time.
And Abu Omar's advice is just a reminder to step back, appreciate our own unique strengths and values,
Yeah.
and really focus on our personal growth.
So basically bringing your best self to the table, not a version of yourself molded by what other people think or expect.
Precisely.
I like that.
And that brings us to another challenge that both sources touch upon.
Okay.
The modern challenges to relationships. The Arabic text specifically mentions things like individualism
Okay.
and globalization
Yeah.
and how they can make it harder to form deep, lasting connections.
And that's where Abu Omar's analysis gets super interesting.
Yeah, how so?
He argues that modern relationships are becoming more and more transactional, almost contractual.
Contractual.
Yeah, like we're always asking, what's in it for me? He uses some really interesting examples to illustrate this point.
Like what?
Remember the story about the handy person and the payment?
Refresh my memory.
So you could fulfill the contract just by paying the agreed upon amount.
Right.
But what if you knew that the handy person ran into like unexpected difficulties? Would you go above and beyond?
I see where you're going with this.
He calls that absolute justice.
Okay.
And it's actually a concept rooted in Islamic teachings.
Wow, that's really thought-provoking.
So it's not just about fulfilling our obligations.
Right.
It's about approaching our interactions with a spirit of generosity
Yeah.
and genuinely wanting to do what's right, even if it means going beyond what's strictly required.
I love that. Imagine if we applied that to all of our relationships.
It would be transformative, wouldn't it? And it makes me think of another concept Abu Omar talked about, relationship awareness.
What's that?
It's like being more mindful and present in our interactions with others
Okay.
and resisting all those distractions that dominate modern life.
Ay.
He actually shared some really cool anecdotes about the Prophet Muhammad's attentiveness to his companions and family
Oh, wow.
and how he prioritized connection even in a busy life. Like, what if we brought that level of presence to our own relationships?
That's a high bar.
It is, but it's something to strive for, right? Instead of constantly checking our phones or letting our minds wander,
Oh, I'm so guilty of that.
we could really be present with the people right in front of us. Abu Omar even suggests that this awareness can change how we interpret other people's actions.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, he gives the example of a missed phone call.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of assuming someone's ignoring us, what if we considered other explanations? Like maybe they're busy or in a meeting or haven't seen the call yet.
That's a good point. It's about choosing the most compassionate interpretation.
Exactly.
Even when it's hard.
Yeah, building that trust and understanding.
He even used this funny example of someone buying you a really fancy burger. Instead of assuming they're sharing off, maybe they're just showing their affection in a way that comes naturally to them.
That's such a good point.
It's all about assuming good intentions.
Right. Resisting that negativity bias that can creep in.
Oh, for sure.
And this actually ties into Abu Omar's framework for classifying relationships.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
He describes 5 types.
Okay.
Living, sick, sickening, dead, and then a new category he introduces.
Oh, a new one.
Yeah, the man-woman friendship that dissolves with love.
Ooh, that's a good one. Especially these days where men and women are sharing workspaces and social circles more than ever.
Right, exactly. So much to unpack there.
Yeah, let's dive into those categories. What does he mean by a living relationship?
He describes them as relationships nurtured by commitment, obligations, kindness, justice, and forgiveness.
It sounds ideal.
It does, right. Like a thriving connection where both people are actively invested in putting in the effort.
Absolutely. And what about sick relationships?
Those are dominated by this fear of blame, where one or both people are walking on eggshells to avoid conflict.
Ooh, that's tough.
It might seem stable on the surface, but underneath there's often resentment and exhaustion.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then you have the sickening relationship.
Sickening, what does that look like?
It's where one person constantly feels drained or taken advantage of. He gave this example of someone getting upset for not being invited to a social gathering.
Yeah, okay.
It highlights how these relationships often involve like unrealistic expectations and a tendency to guilt trip others.
Yikes, that's not healthy at all.
And then there are the dead relationships.
Dead. That sounds intense.
He uses this analogy of a tree that's still standing, but it lacks vitality.
Oh, I get it.
And he emphasizes that even in marriage, a relationship can become dead if there's no genuine connection or intimacy.
That's a sobering thought. So even a legally binding relationship like marriage can lose its spark.
Exactly.
Wow. And what about that new category, the man-woman friendship that dissolves with love? It's so relevant, right? Because men and women are interacting so much more these days.
Yeah, in workplaces, social settings.
It makes you think about boundaries, intentions, and how easily lines can get blurred.
So how do we even approach those kinds of relationships in a way that aligns with Islamic principles and maintains healthy boundaries?
I'm dying to know what Abu Omar has to say about that.
Me too. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So diving back into those relationship types.
I'm still thinking about them.
Yeah. It made me realize how much relationships actually change over time.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not static.
No, not at all.
And actually, Abu Omar addresses that directly.
Oh, does he?
He talks about 3 stages that every relationship goes through.
Okay.
Infatuation, realization, and decision-making.
Ooh, I like this.
It's a framework that can help us understand where our relationships stand and what we need to do.
Okay, break it down for me.
Okay, so infatuation.
Ah, yes, infatuation.
We've all been there. Oh, many times.
It's that initial excitement, attraction.
The honeymoon phase.
Exactly. When you're overlooking all the red flags because you're so caught up.
Definitely.
And while this stage is definitely exhilarating,
yes,
it's important to remember that it's not a sustainable foundation for a long-term relationship.
Right, because eventually reality sets in.
Exactly. The rose-colored glasses come off.
Yeah.
And we enter the second stage. Realization.
This
is where we see the other person more clearly.
Flaws and all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a critical stage because it allows us to assess if the relationship is actually aligned with our values, goals, and aspirations.
It's about moving beyond that initial attraction, right?
Exactly, and going deeper.
Yeah.
Abu Omar emphasizes that if this realization stage takes too long, it might be a sign that the relationship isn't meant to be.
I can see why he would say that.
Yeah.
If you're constantly trying to change the other person, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
You're going to be miserable.
Right.
It's about accepting the other person for who they truly are.
Yes. Acceptance is key.
And then comes the third stage, decision-making.
Decision time.
This is where we make a conscious choice about whether to commit to the relationship, to deepen it,
or to walk away. And that decision, it shouldn't be taken lightly, right?
No, not at all.
It requires a lot of thought.
Careful consideration, self-reflection, and a willingness to be guided by Islamic principles.
Absolutely. And this makes me think back to what Abu Omar said about understanding our own attachment styles.
Yes. Remember his discussion about anxious attachment?
Oh, so important.
It's that pattern of feeling insecure in relationships, leading to possessiveness, jealousy.
Always needing reassurance.
Yes, exactly.
So how do you even begin to overcome those unhealthy patterns?
Well, Abu Omar gives some really helpful advice.
Okay.
He emphasizes self-awareness, self-soothing techniques, and building a strong sense of self-worth outside of the relationship.
I love how he brings in the Islamic perspective here.
Oh, me too.
Like reminding us that our sense of security and worth should come from our relationship with Allah.
Exactly, not from other people.
So true. And he makes this other point that I think is so important.
What's that?
Relationships are meant to enhance our lives, not consume them.
So many people get lost in that.
It's easy to do.
And it goes back to knowing your social number.
Yeah, your position.
We have to prioritize our responsibilities, honor our commitments, and keep things balanced.
So important.
One of the things I appreciate about Abu Omar's advice is that it's so practical.
Oh, absolutely.
He doesn't just throw out abstract concepts. He gives us strategies.
Yeah, he's giving us a toolkit.
Exactly. He even offers advice on what questions to ask when you're getting to know someone.
Oh, really? Like when you're considering marriage?
Especially then.
Interesting.
He encourages going beyond just surface level stuff.
Deeper topics.
Yeah, like the other person's relationship with Allah, their work ethic, their sense of responsibility, how they manage their finances, emotions.
These are such important things to consider.
They are.
Compatibility runs so much deeper than shared interests. Right?
Exactly. Marriage is a partnership.
Absolutely.
And you want to make sure you're on the same page when it comes to those big things.
Makes total sense.
And Abu Omar also emphasizes being honest with yourself.
Oh, yeah, about your own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Recognizing that nobody is perfect.
No one is perfect.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Relationships require compromise, Communication, working through challenges together.
And seeking guidance from Allah throughout the whole process, right?
Yes, through prayer, reflection, seeking counsel from wise people.
Wise people.
Because the strongest, most fulfilling relationships are the ones rooted in faith.
Guided by Islamic principles.
Precisely.
I really like that Abu Omar doesn't shy away from talking about our flaws.
Oh, yeah. He's very real about it.
He acknowledges that we're all capable of both great love
and selfishness.
Yeah.
But he reminds us that we have a choice in how we respond to others.
We always have a choice.
We can choose kindness, generosity, even when it's difficult.
I love that.
He encourages us to embrace the challenge of building healthy relationships.
It is a challenge.
It's a lifelong journey.
It really is.
It takes effort, self-reflection, and a willingness to learn and grow.
It's not a destination, it's a journey.
Beautifully said. It's a process.
And, thinking about support, Abu Omar also talks about setting healthy boundaries in relationships.
Boundaries are so important.
They really are. Recognizing our limits.
Communicating them clearly.
Yes, and honoring the boundaries of others.
He actually encourages being assertive when setting boundaries.
Okay, how so?
Saying no when you need to. Avoiding overcommitting.
That's something I think a lot of people struggle with.
So many people, especially those who are natural givers. He emphasizes that boundaries aren't about being selfish or controlling.
No.
They're about protecting our own well-being and the integrity of our relationship.
It's about self-respect and mutual respect.
Exactly. And healthy relationships are built on that foundation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of foundations, I'm remembering that story he told about his son and his wife.
Oh, yes, the conflict.
It highlighted how their disagreement created this tension that spread to the whole family.
It's like a ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
It made me realize how interconnected our lives really are.
It's not just about individual relationships, it's about the whole web of connections.
That makes so much sense.
So we need to be mindful of how our behavior impacts those around us.
And try to create a positive and supportive environment.
And if we do happen to cause harm, if we damage a relationship, he emphasizes seeking forgiveness.
And making amends.
Yes, it's essential for restoring harmony and trust.
It's about taking responsibility.
And working towards healing.
As we've been exploring these insights from Abu Omar, I keep coming back to this theme of intentionality.
Intentionality.
Approaching our relationships with mindfulness, making choices that align with our values, with Islamic principles.
It's a powerful concept.
It is. It's like he's reminding us that We have a choice.
We always have a choice
in how we interact with others.
You can choose kindness, compassion, understanding, even when it's hard.
It's not always easy.
And we can't control the actions of others.
Right, but we can control our own responses.
Exactly. We can choose patience, understanding, even forgiveness.
It's about turning it inwards a bit.
Yes, and this ties into his belief that we should see relationships as opportunities for spiritual growth, to become better versions of ourselves.
I love that.
He's so optimistic about human nature.
He is, isn't he?
He acknowledges our flaws, but he believes in our capacity for love, compassion,
and growth.
Growth, yes. He encourages us to focus on the positive.
To appreciate the good.
And to be a source of support for those around us.
Relationships are a gift.
A precious gift from Allah.
They should be a source of joy and comfort.
And spiritual fulfillment.
You know, I think it's important to remember that we have different types of relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
Each with its own purpose and dynamic.
Family, friends, romantic relationships.
Professional relationships, even casual acquaintances.
Each one has its own set of expectations.
Boundaries, ways of expressing love.
We have to be mindful of those differences.
Approach each one with understanding and respect.
This brings us back to balance, doesn't it?
Balance, yeah.
Finding that healthy equilibrium.
Between giving and receiving.
Between independence and dependence.
It's a lot to juggle.
He reminds us that we can't pour from an empty cup.
Self-care is so important.
It is. We need to nurture our own well-being.
To be fully present in our relationships.
And remember, asking for help isn't weakness.
No, it's a strength.
Reach out to your friends, family, mentors.
Even therapists.
Even therapists, yes.
If you need to.
Ultimately, our greatest source of support and guidance is Allah.
Always.
Through prayer, supplication.
We can find the wisdom to navigate these complexities.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Understanding that our actions have a ripple effect.
So powerful.
We need to be mindful.
To act with kindness, consideration.
And try to make a positive difference in the lives of others.
You know, our relationships are really a reflection of our character.
They are. By building strong, healthy connections, we're not just enriching our own lives.
But we're contributing to the well-being of our communities.
And the world around us.
That's a beautiful thought.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, exploring all these different aspects of relationships.
I know, I'm still processing everything.
Me too.
Especially that idea of relationships being like an ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. How our actions have a ripple effect on those around us.
Such a powerful concept to remember.
It is.
And you know what else really stood out to me?
What's that?
Abu Omar's emphasis on patience in relationships.
Oh, patience is key.
He reminds us that relationships take time. Time to develop, to deepen.
They don't just happen overnight.
They don't. To heal.
And we need to be patient with ourselves.
With ourselves.
With others, and with the process itself.
The process, yeah.
Because, let's face it, relationships can be
messy.
There are ups and downs, challenges, setbacks.
Yeah, he acknowledges all of that.
He does.
But he believes that with perseverance, communication, a willingness to work through those difficulties.
You can come out stronger on the other side.
We can build strong, lasting connections.
It's like anything worthwhile in life.
Exactly.
It requires effort and commitment.
Effort and commitment.
You got to put in the work.
And he also encourages us to be mindful of the different seasons of life.
Oh, okay.
Recognizing that relationships evolve and change over time.
Yeah, they do.
What worked in one stage might not be as effective in another.
That's a good point. Things change.
People grow, circumstances shift.
And we need to be willing to adapt.
Adjust our approach.
Yeah, sometimes
relationships run their course.
They do, as sad as that is.
It's true. Endings are a natural part of life.
And it's hard. But sometimes letting go. It's the healthiest thing.
Get everyone involved.
You know, one thing that I find really empowering about Abu Omar's approach.
What's that?
Is that he believes we have the power to choose. How we respond to the challenges and the opportunities that life throws at us.
We do. We're not just victims of circumstance.
No, we're agents of our own destiny.
And we have the power to create the kinds of relationships that we want.
To foster connection, to cultivate love.
To build a life full of meaning and purpose.
And he encourages us to be proactive in shaping our relationships.
Proactive, yeah.
To communicate our needs clearly.
To set healthy boundaries.
Make conscious choices.
Choices that align with our values and aspirations.
I love that.
It's about taking ownership.
Of
our role in the dynamic.
And viewing our relationships as a journey.
A journey.
A path of continuous growth.
Growth, discovery.
And, on this journey, there's always something to learn.
There is.
Always room for improvement.
Always ways to deepen our connection.
With ourselves, with others, with a...
Beautifully said.
As we wrap up this deep dive into relationships, I feel a sense of hope and inspiration.
Me too. Even though relationships can be complex
and challenging,
Abu Omar's insights give us such valuable tools.
And perspectives.
I couldn't agree more.
It's like he's given us this roadmap.
A roadmap, yeah.
For navigating those complexities with wisdom and intentionality.
With a heart full of faith.
It's amazing how both the ancient Arabic text and Abu Omar, a modern expert,
I know, right?
Converge on that fundamental principle.
The importance of centering our lives around our relationship with Allah.
When our hearts are connected to the divine, it naturally overflows into all other areas.
Including our relationships.
So remember what Abu Omar said.
About the 3 stages.
Yes, infatuation, realization,
and decision-making.
As we move forward in our own relationships, let's ask ourselves, what stage are we in?
Good question.
And are we equipped to make those conscious, healthy choices?
Choices that align with our values and with Islamic principles.
That's the key.
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
It could unlock a whole new level of understanding.
In our connections.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring the world of relationships with you.
Likewise, I hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
And that you'll continue to learn and grow in your own connections with others.
Until next time.
Take care, everyone.